Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, May 5th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Folks, do you know that today is National Astronaut Day? And my co-host, she dreams of the day of becoming a lady astronaut, you know, kind of like Katy Perry, so that she can visit the solar system, Mars and Mercury, Saturn and Jupiter, but she'll never go to Uranus. And yes, I recycled the same gag from Friday when it was National Space Day. She is the she-devil with a sword, the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing, sensational one?
I thought I was in some sort of time loop. I was like, wait, did we already go through this? Yes. Yeah, I've had a lot of thoughts, by the way, about Katy Perry's trip to the stars. And I just thought, how awful for her children to see her post trip to the stars interview where she was like, now I truly know what love is. Now I would be like, what, Mom? Like, excuse me, Mom, what about me and how you loved me? Like, she did the most obnoxious, self-righteous interview that if you are a mother and you have given birth to your children, I would not think that actually going into space would match the feeling you have for your children. And that,
look at that.
Like, look at this. Oh my God, it's so obnoxious. Anyways, that's enough of her. For
but
me,
I just want to correct you
forever.
on one thing, Sheila. It turns out that those gals never actually made it into space. They got to, I guess, the outer limit of the stratosphere without actually going into the nighttime space of it. So it was really just a very high plane ride.
Yeah, that's fine. I just never want to hear from these ladies about climate change ever again.
Yes.
After you just expended all that fuel to get to the upper levels of the atmosphere to come down and virtue signal about how you feel now truly part of the human thread. And I'm like, what about your kids? Like, what about your kids? Doesn't motherhood make you feel like part of the human thread? Anyway, just enough of these obnoxious people. Yes, I am Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm the co-host today instead of in the driver's seat, and I'm grateful for that because I have had just a crazy, crazy morning. And I will have a crazy, crazy afternoon, which means, David, we cannot go a moment long today. I have stuff that are just butting right up against the end of the show. So I'll zip it, and I will get into what we're doing here. If you're watching us on Rumble, thank you for supporting a great free speech platform. You can support our work on Rumble by giving us a Rumble rant. That's our paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. This is my promise to you. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it, time permitting, and time is tight today, but I always do my very best to get to you. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for sticking it out as we endured intense censorship and demonetization over on YouTube. But we are recently remonetized, so if you want to leave us a super chat, we appreciate you. Same rules apply. And you can leave us a paid comment after the fact. So if you're watching this show recorded later on when you get home or whatever, and you feel moved by the spirit to support the work that we do, you can leave us a super thanks. That's the paid chat. Okay, that's it. Let's get into what the news of the day is, please, David.
Yes, let's get right down to business, Sheila. All eyes are on the upcoming meeting between Prime Minister Carney and President Trump. Trump is back on the 51st state routine. And I think we have some video here, Sheila, of President Trump saying that he'll always talk about making Canada the 51st state, which I always find hard to understand. How can one state be bigger than the entire United States of America? But, you know, I guess we'll work out the details later. Let's run that video and we'll weigh in.
On to Canada. You have long talked about making Canada the 51st state. There's obviously a new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who you spoke to after his victory. He says that you didn't talk to him in that call about making Canada a 51st state.
No, he called me. He was very nice, and I congratulated him. He had a victory. It's a very close victory. It's, there's no majority or anything, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult, I think, for him to run, but he nevertheless had a victory, and he's a very nice man, I think.
Do you plan to talk to him about making Canada a 51st state?
He wants to come and see me. He's going to come this week or next week.
So will you talk to him about making Canada a 51st state, annexing Canada?
I'll always talk about that. You know why? We subsidize Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. In fact, we don't want their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't even want their energy. We have more than they do. We don't want their lumber. We have great lumber. All I have to do is free it up from the environmental lunatics. We don't need anything that they have. We're giving them. I asked Mr. Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau, I said, not Prime Minister, Governor. I said, Governor Trudeau, could I ask you one question? Why are we giving you $200 billion? Why are we subsidizing Canada? If Canada was a state, it wouldn't cost us. It would be great. It would be such a great, it would be a cherished state. And if you look at our map, if you look at the geography, I'm a real estate guy at heart. When I look down at that, without that artificial line that was drawn with a ruler many years ago, it was just an artificial line, goes straight across. You don't even realize what a beautiful country it would be. It would be great. But I don't think the American public wants me to pay $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. Again, remember this.
Yeah.
We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We do very little business with Canada. They do all of their business practically with us. They need us. We don't need them.
You and I talked, and I asked you if you would rule out military force to take Greenland, and you said no, you don't rule out anything. Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
But
I think
Canada?
It's highly unlikely. I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
Okay, but you don't rule it out for Greenland.
And by the way, Canada, they spend less money on military than practically any nation in the world. They pay NATO less than any nation. They think we're subsidized. They think we are going to protect them. And really, we are. But the truth is, they don't carry their full share, and it's unfair to the United States and our taxpayers.
But you are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that. We need Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security.
Well, let's dwell on the positives first, Sheila. First of all, he's pretty much ruled out military intervention in making Canada the 51st
because
state.
I don't think it's going to be necessary after he crushes us economically. That's not me saying that. I think that's what his mind is thinking about. Like, look, we could just crush them economically. It's clear they're not paying their fair share militarily because they have a demoralized and decrepit military. If I were Trump, of course, it would not be necessary. But I'm looking at this thinking, yeah, this is very obviously why Trump was in it for Carney and caused chaos in the between the liberals and the conservatives, because he needs a weak guy he can walk all over, and that's exactly what he's getting. He knows that the conservatives committed to upping military spending and reinvigorating our military and growing a Canadian first economy. If you're Trump and you think you want a weak Canada, Carney's your man. And we just saw it play out exactly.
Well, whoever is the prime minister, the idea of Canada going up against the United States of America in a military confrontation.
It's madness.
It would be like the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Thornhill Selects, if you know what I'm saying. But, I'm not, and as much as I am a Trump fan, and I know for some Canadians that's heresy, I'm not talking about the tariff tiff. I'm talking about so many other things on the world stage that makes me a fan of Trump. But I do disagree when he says that they don't need anything from Canada because, Sheila, I'm just looking at some of the things that, we're the biggest provider of to the U.S. Oil and gas, steel, potash, nickel, uranium. Those are very important things, and I've just scratched the surface there. So I don't understand why he's saying that rhetoric, because I can tell you in those states, and I'm talking Republican states, that have a large agricultural community, they're not happy with the idea of, potash being tariff going to them. That would make life miserable for farmers. So I'm trying to figure out the end goal here with Donald Trump.
Well, I think it's just a weakened Canadian economy. But yeah, like we are their largest supplier of oil and gas. You don't get it from us, and fuel goes up in the Midwest, and that ain't good for the Republicans. Once you start hitting farmers on input costs, because you have to remember, as is the case with Canadian farmers, we are price takers, not price setters. We sell into a world market. And any increase in input costs, be it a carbon tax or increased fertilizer costs, thanks to potash tariffs, that hurts that just steals money out of farmers' pockets unnecessarily. So and if you need potash, if you're not getting it from Canada, you're getting it from some of the more sketchy places of the world. You're propping up the bad dudes. So I don't know. All I know is he wants a weakened world economy to achieve American dominance. And if we're elected on America First, I mean, that's one way of doing it. I just don't like to see people in middle America they're probably going to have to foot the bill for this.
And Sheila, wouldn't the strategy of the president, instead of making the entire Dominion one state, in which case, if it were, you're risking electoral college votes going to the Democrats, but if you were to cherry pick certain provinces, most notably Alberta and Saskatchewan, well, those would be safe Republican electoral votes, and that's where all the resources are. Well, most of it is.
Yeah, you need your minerals, you need your potash, you need your oil and gas. Right here. That's us right here. I don't know. You don't want another California with 40 million people in it coming your way. We just saw how Canadians vote, right? Like we just literally saw that. Please learn something. If you want us, you don't need the whole family.
Careful what you wish for. Here's the question, though, Sheila. Let's pretend you are in Mark Carney's inner circle. What is the advice you give to him? What is the strategy? What does he have to do in these meetings? And obviously, if I were in that role, one thing I would say is don't do what Blackface did and after the meeting mock the president, because you know what? He does watch the news like everybody else, and he didn't take kindly to that. But in terms of, a tangible negotiating tactic, what does the prime minister do with a Donald Trump?
I have no idea. He's such a chaos goblin these days. It's hard to predict, but yes, don't step out of the meeting and be like the liberals of old and just talk about how Trump is a fascist, how he's illegitimate, how they should have elected a woman, how he's in the bag for Russia. Like all these radical Democrat conspiracy theories. Think about Canadians, please. They tell me they care about the auto sector. They tell me they care about steel workers. I know they don't care about the West. But the people who, and I shouldn't even say the auto sector voted for Carney, because Windsor, you're conservative now, at least a large part of you. Yep. So, but the liberals tell me that they care about those sectors. Think about that before you run your mouth. Now, it remained to be seen, I guess, whether or not the Carney liberals are going to do that. But they've already said our relationship with the Americans is over. Then why even go? Why even go to Washington? Go to the EU and encourage us to join the EU, as one or several progressive commentators floated. But yeah, stop the tough talk and try to fix, for the sake of Canadians, what you people have done.
And Sheila, there's a global news report here. Trump delighted, in quotes, by his influence on Canada's election.
I'm sure he is.
But to your point earlier, if I understood you correctly, it's because he wants somebody weak like Carney as opposed to somebody strong like Poilievre. Do you really think that's the unspoken strategy here?
I do. I absolutely believe that. Carney is a globalist. right? Like, we know that he's not Canada first, even though, I mean, like, the elbows up nonsense. How dumb is that? By the way, I watched a UCP politician talk this weekend, and he's like, first of all, this is illegal. Like, in hockey, this is a penalty.
It's a dirty play.
But second of all, if you're in like a boxing match or like an actual fight, you put your elbows up, what's open? Like, all your organs that will be hurt, and you'll get winded, and then you'll get knocked out. And so I think that's what the elbows up crowd has done to Canada, is left us completely exposed. I think Trump is going to capitalize on it. I think we're all going to be sorry.
No, you're right. I think a lot of people mislabel President Trump as a populist. Really, Trump's strength is he's an anti-globalist. He's an anti-elitist. Everything that Mark Carney is. So, are you saying, Sheila, it's better to use Carney as his foil as opposed to Poilievre, who is more in line with Trump?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, to Carney's end, he did the exact same thing, right? He painted himself as, I'm, this global banker, big thinker, sort of an elitist. And I don't know why Canadian boomers fell for it, but they did. But, sort of the opposite of Trump. And I know Poilievre rejects the idea that he's Trumpy, but he does have some Trumpy qualities in that he seems to be a lot more at home with the hard hat lunch bucket crew than he would at the World Economic Forum. I feel like Trump is the exact same way. He's the biggest blue-collar billionaire you've ever seen. In fact, his tastes remind me of someone who lived in a trailer park but also won the lottery. Like, get a gold toilet, and like eat a McDonald's buffet. Like, so, I think it worked well for both, and it continues to work well for both of them, Carney and Trump.
And, I will say this, Sheila, when you say it worked on the boomers, well, the majority of boomers, let's say. I'm a boomer. Lady Menswit is a boomer. A lot of the people in our circle are boomers. Didn't work on us. I think this is a tragedy, this election, because I think you mentioned Windsor, and 2 of the 3 ridings went blue, which was huge. That's always been
it's crazy.
Red and orange. And that is a sea change. We saw similar gains in southwestern Ontario, and of course, Windsor is in southwestern Ontario. And, I think back, Sheila, last month when I covered that Poilievre rally at an enormous warehouse. It was packed to the rafters, late as usual, just not because the Conservatives aren't punctual, just because they're accommodating a traffic jam of people trying to get there. And what you noticed was the blue-collar tradespeople, right? And young people, so many. I mean, I went to a lot of Carney rallies, but of course we get frog marched off the parking lot. But from a distance, I can tell it's less the newlywed and more the nearly dead. And when I saw the turnout in Windsor and who was turning out, it makes me question those boomers who I would suspect, Sheila, most of them are financially okay. They've got their mortgage paid off, their car paid off, they've got a pension, they've got some RRSPs. Yeah, they don't want to come under any scrutiny, but did they not think of their kids, of their grandkids? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the position I'd be in. That's what would, sway my vote to the Conservatives, but apparently not.
Yeah, I think I talked about this on Friday's show. It's a complete and total inversion of everything we know to be what moved society forward from the beginning of human civilization.
Yeah.
The generation before, the moms and dads, always do with less so that the next generation does with more. And you continue to do that, and you continue to do that, and then all of a sudden you're no longer living in a cave, but you're living in a society where you have a supercomputer in your pocket. Yep. If everybody holds up their end of the bargain, all of a sudden the bargain has disintegrated. Mm-hmm. It was a sacrifice made for the good of society without the government intervening, by the way. This is just what a society organizes itself to be without government overreach. But some of these boomers, they're not holding up the bargain anymore. And this is how societies fall.
Well said, and how sad. Sheila, why don't we take an ad break and we'll pivot from America to Alberta. Interesting polling data from Nanos, I should think. So let's get into that on the other side.
Thanks.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again. Okay, so Sheila, here's what we were teasing on the other side. A Nanos poll finds 1 in 4 people in Alberta identify as Albertan first, Canadian second. The only thing I have to say at first blush, Sheila, only 1 in 4?
Seems low. That was my first response, is this seems low. We know that about 30% of Albertans, and this is like polling from like 2 weeks ago, feel some sort of separatist or sovereigntist notion. It's higher in Saskatchewan, which actually doesn't surprise me. We usually do things a little louder in Alberta, but Saskatchewan is more stoic and reserved, but also more, I guess, radicalized on this issue. And I'm joking when I say radicalized. This is what the left calls us. Albertans who just say that they're getting a raw deal from the feds. And I mean, this is absolutely true. We saw a massive rally at the legislature this weekend that wasn't really organized by any of the big separatist, sovereigntist movements like the APP or the Republican Party. I think some people were there, but this was just mostly completely organic that happened at the legislature. I'm sorry, I wasn't there. I had a prior engagement with the National Firearms Association. This, when I look at these numbers, seems low. And again, this is like without any like overtures from the Americans saying, hey, little lady, would you like to have your assets 1 for 1? I mean, once you start telling people you're going to get like 30 to 50% richer, that number will skyrocket.
Oh, so in other words, if Canadian money accepted at par was a condition of Alberta being the 51st state,
Watch.
Wow, you have me at that line. But you know, Sheila, I think the case for Alberta separation is far more profound than the case for Quebec separation, especially, with Alberta, being a net giver as opposed to a recipient. In terms of transfer payments. And also, my heart goes out to Albertans, to those in Saskatchewan. Every federal election, at least recently, must be getting a little tiring and frustrating to see that even before your results are counted, the election is pretty much a done deal. And
not just a done deal, they were calling it.
Yeah.
They were calling it. We're in Alberta, we're like, wait, we're not even done at the ballot box. What are you doing? But they were calling it because our votes don't matter in this country.
Yep.
And we cannot, except for a few historical progressive ridings, Edmonton Centre being one, Edmonton Strathcona being the other, could not possibly vote any bluer any harder. But it doesn't matter. And when you look at that map, you can make the case for us being largely culturally distinct, largely homogenous when it comes to our values. We were settled for different reasons in different waves than the rest of the country. Our industries are not only self-supporting, but they support the rest of you. It's tough. Like, there are a lot of people who are sovereigntists or separatists, depending on how they might describe themselves, who are saying, maybe we don't even want to leave, but could somebody, please, anywhere, give us a reason to stay besides nostalgia? And they're not hearing a lot of good answers.
And I don't blame them, Sheila. I really don't. And when you compound that with, what, trillions of dollars of mineral wealth trapped forever,
Yep.
it would seem, underground, preventing not just Alberta, but Canada as a whole,
Yep.
to thrive. I mean, one of the pressers, a Polya presser we went to, that's Lincoln J and I, was in St. John, New Brunswick, and that was held at the port. And Mr. Polya pointed out that this would have been the final destination of the Energy East pipeline. 1.2 million barrels of oil a day coming into the port of St. John, destined, guess what, not to the U.S., but to Europe, those new markets. Right. So how is this not win-win-win? But we're not going to see drill, baby, drill under Carney. And it's a disgrace.
And you're not going to see any companies that step up and say, yeah, I definitely want to build a transcontinental pipeline in Canada. Like, nobody is going to say that, because look what happened to Energy East. Look what happened to Northern Gateway. Look what the ongoing battle for Keystone XL. Trans Mountain had to be, well, it didn't have to be. All the government had to do is actually enforce the law, but they refused to. So they nationalized it and brought it in years late and 700% over budget, even though it was the most easy pipeline to build. It would be built in the existing easement of the pipeline that had been set aside and running safely since the Korean War. And yet we couldn't get that pipeline built in Canada. So if you are a major multinational pipeline corporation that isn't owned by Brookfield Asset Management, you are going to look at Canada and say, no, West Texas is looking pretty good. Iraq is looking great. Nigeria is looking fine. Algeria, how much money do we have in the budget to pay off the warlords? Like, that's a lot easier than dealing with the Carney Liberals.
Oh, God. It's too bad. I doubt Mark Carney has read Ezra's superb book, Ethical Oil, but maybe he should. But I don't know if that would sway the pendulum with this globalist elitist. Also, on the tariff front, 100% tariffs on foreign film productions. And we have Jason Kenney weighing in. I don't think we have a video of that. It's an X post. And Mr. Kenney says, proud of the work I did as premier, massively to expand Alberta's film and television industries. Thanks to new policy incentives and aggressive marketing, we managed to triple the number and value of productions being shot in Alberta. And then he goes on to say, Mr. Carney was elected to stop Trump's arbitrary application of tariffs. Reversing this attack on creative industries must be a priority. To the MAGA North crowd, are you proud that your guy continues to kill Canadian jobs? What is Kenny getting at here, Sheila?
Do you know what? I just wish that he would go back to whatever he was doing before this. Because every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, excuse me, this is a bit rich from you, good sir. Yeah. So all of a sudden now he's worried about the Canadian film industry. And it is true. Many series are filmed in Canada. Like Hell on Wheels, by the way. As soon as I didn't even know where it was filmed, and I just saw the sky. I'm like, oh, that's ours. And it was. But Jason Kenney is the guy who shuttered Canadian businesses
Yeah.
while allowing American film productions to film here. He also locked up our pastors and told us that we couldn't have Christmas, while he was allowing film productions like, I think, The Bachelorette Canada to film all over the place in the mountains. So I'd like to hear from somebody else, please. He might even be making a good point, but I don't need to hear it from him.
You know, my favorite film production story out of Alberta was, and forgive me, I'm having a Biden moment. I can remember the film, The Reverend. I can't remember the Hollywood A-lister name.
It was The Revenant.
Yes.
That was now his name just completely left my
What's
head
that,
too.
Olivia?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Thank you.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
When he thought he was in real time observing global warming, and the cast went along with it. Oh my God, we've never seen this. It was a Chinook.
Right. Yeah, that movie was just bear gore porn anyway. It wasn't that great. It was nice that it was filmed here, but whatever. But yeah, he made an idiot of himself, and everybody in Calgary was laughing because he had never experienced a Chinook.
I wish there was film of him freaking out about a Chinook. Now that, give me a bucket of popcorn, I'll watch that all day.
No kidding.
I guess,
All right.
well, from the film business to journalism, we have some...
and before we run ahead, I
yes.
just want to, let's knock off some chats while we're here.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And then we'll move ahead. So Sevenfold 777 gives us $2, says, make Canada pray again. Alex Greer gives $2.79, says, all the best, David and Sheila. And another one from Alex Greer, $2.79. Great seeing you, Sheila, at the National Firearms Association annual general meeting. That's where I was on Saturday. I gave a little talk about what the news media gets wrong about firearms journalism and how their wrong reporting leads directly into firearms bans. Like, one of them was a report that said that the Ruger Mini 14 bullets explode, and then, which is laughable. Like, I accused the lady who said it of being a lobbyist for coyotes. And but as it turns out, guess what gets banned right away? The Ruger Mini 14 ranch rifle. And that's sort of how the bad reporting lays the groundwork for the Liberals' gun bans, because the bad gun reporting only ever go one way, right? Anyway.
So, Sheila, what you're saying, your speech about what the mainstream media gets wrong about firearms, you actually delivered a 13-hour speech. How did you do it?
I think I did it in 17 minutes.
Well, you cut a lot. And by the way, the chat that said "Make Canada Pray Again," is that P-R-A-Y or P-R-E-Y? I'm just trying to figure out.
P-R-A-Y.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Then we've got Laura Mello gives us $6.99. Can we work together to create effort for a federal referendum on all the key issues? C69, censorship, immigration, vote on issues not on Trump. No, I believe we just had a federal referendum on those things, and it was called your general election.
Yep.
And one party had specific viewpoints on this stuff, and the other party had the status quo and possibly worse to come, especially on censorship, and people voted their way. And unfortunately, that's just how it works in a federal system.
It sure does. And talk about the old adage, timing is everything. And, I'll make the point again, Sheila. Plenty of blame to go around, but the one we have to blame the most, I think, is Jagmeet Singh. And the last day of the House sitting in December, he could have pulled the plug. The NDP was up, I think, 20 points. And they finished, what was it? They got 6 points in this election. There was a chance they could have been the official opposition had Jagmeet gone to an election then. And think of everything, too, Sheila. Blackface still, the prime minister, no time to have a leadership convention. Donald Trump hasn't been inaugurated yet, so none of this tariff talk that would come later in January. We're looking, I think, at a majority conservative government, perhaps an NDP opposition. But Jagmeet Singh, for his pension, he needed to get to February, mind you. He threw his party on the bus. He threw his country under the bus. And here we are. I'm still thinking about April 28th, Sheila. I can't get it out of my mind what happened.
You know, I was thinking about this over the weekend too. I had a couple hours alone in the car one way and a couple hours alone in the car on the way back from the NFA AGM in Red Deer. And a lot of the people there are from Alberta, and they were talking about just the absolute selflessness of Damien Kirk, because I falsely said last week, and I forgot that he was elected when Kevin Sorensen stepped down. He was actually about 6 months shy of his pension when he stepped down. And this is what I said. I said Singh traded the country for the good of his pension, and Kirk traded his pension for the good of the country.
Oh, that's a thing of beauty, Sheila. You're absolutely right. He's just missed it by that much, as they used to say on Get Smart. But you can see where his priorities are versus what was his name that Polyev used? Sellout Singh.
Sellout Singh.
Talk about truth in advertising. And I wonder if you could actually eke out an honest answer from Jagmeet Singh, if you were to say, what do you think? Buyer's remorse?
Yeah, I hope it was worth it.
Yeah.
I hope it was worth it, because you ragging the puck, to use a Carney hockey analogy, because that's the only analogy he knows. I want to ask Jagmeet Singh, you ragged the puck until you got your pension. Was it worth it to do what you did to the NDP, which now basically doesn't exist? But also, was it worth it to be the catalyst which will cause and has caused a unity crisis in this country? You did that because you didn't do your job as opposition.
Yeah. But of course, he doesn't even take questions from independent media, so it's a moot point, isn't it, Sheila? Anyways, speaking of media,
more to go. Sorry,
sorry.
A couple more to go, and then we'll do what I got up to early this morning. RC Lamoureux, $5. How do we keep law-abiding citizens when politicians are breaking laws at will with no consequences? We have no safety and security. Yeah, I mean, just look at the Green Slush Fund. People seem to have forgotten about that. Billions of dollars just spent on liberal cronies, and no accounting, no keeping track of it, and the Liberals refused to turn the documents over to the House of Commons to hide their own corruption. It's bizarre. I don't even know how it didn't come up in the election campaign. And I wonder how many Brookfield-tied companies are associated in all of that.
That going forward, Sheila, is always going to be the question, isn't it? Where is Brookfield's tentacles on issues X,
everywhere?
Y, and Z? Yeah.
Yeah. They're the BlackRock of Canada.
Yeah.
They really are.
Well, kind of Canada. Don't forget Carney, Captain Canuck himself was behind the movement of the head office from Toronto to New York City, but never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they're the BlackRock, or they're the BlackRock of the US. I don't know. Donald Anderson gives us $50 and says, it's me again. Well, that's very generous. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Okay, now we can get into the other things.
Sure. Yeah. Well, why don't we throw a video of Robert Fife on Polyev? It's a CBC clip. Parental advisement suggested here, folks. Robert Fife gets a little potty mouth. Check it out.
MPs that have told me that they found it really difficult going door to door, because a lot of people were saying, we like some of the policies you're doing, but we think your leader's a dick. And we really. All right. And we think yes, I'm sorry, but that's what they're telling me.
All right. I'm gonna have some ombudsman's paperwork to fill out before I go home tonight, I think. But yes, not in such language, but I have heard similar sentiments expressed from conservative candidates.
MPs that have.
That's amazing. Robert Fife is with the Globe Mail, and once upon a time I had done some freelance writing for the Globe Mail, Sheila, and I can tell you they have a policy about unnamed sources, which is to say it's frowned upon. When I brought up all the stories they wrote about Rob Ford, Toronto's dearly departed Toronto mayor, we make exceptions sometimes, and that's probably what ended with me not writing for the Globe Mail asking insensitive questions. But the thing is, Mr. Fife, can you mention these people calling Mr. Poilievre a DICK?
What he's doing there is just spreading unsubstantiated
Exactly.
gossip, which is exactly what he did during the debates. Remember, he went and said that we were unruly and disruptive and said we were the victims caught on camera of extended workplace harassment.
Other way around.
It was completely the other way around. He lied. He had no firsthand knowledge. He was just reporting unsubstantiated rumors, which is exactly what he's doing now. Because he's admitting that this is coming to him third hand, if indeed it is coming to him at all. Because now I don't trust anything that Bob Fife says, because he quite literally lied about me on live TV.
Yep.
And our behavior during the debates commission. But is this a CBC panel? Is this what passes for a CBC panel these days? Because that looks like a quilting circle or a hen party of 50-something wine moms with too much time on their hands gossiping about the neighbors. That's not news. And yet we are forced to pay for it.
But Sheila, once again, let's go to the unspoken strategy here, and it's all about the money. Follow the money. CBC, thanks to Carney, they're going to get an additional $150 million to their, $1.5 billion funding. The mainstream media slush fund, that'll be safe under Carney. Wouldn't have been that way under Poilievre, right?
No.
So that, as always, look for the motivation, and these people are motivated by saving their taxpayer-funded jobs. That's it.
That's what $150 million in promised extra funding gets you, is giddy wine moms, Bob Fife and David Cochrane. And I don't even know who the other guy was. I assume that he is just an NDP activist, the other guy. I don't even know. I don't care. I was just laughing. He couldn't stop laughing.
Well, on the bright side, Sheila, at least with the government throwing so many millions, in some cases billions, at the media, at least we'll have a robust free press here in Canada. Oh, oops, I spoke too soon, because the Independent Press Gallery of Canada is sounding the alarm after Canada fell to 21st place in 2025 in the World Press Freedom Index. That's down 7 spots. 7 in just 1 year, 13 spots since 2015. Geez, what happened in 2015? I'm having a memory cramp here. So the more money that goes into funding these cats, the less freedom we get. And then the Independent Press Gallery of Canada, I mean, they have the chutzpah to say, oh, look at the lack of press freedom. These are that's the cabal that won't allow us anywhere near into, government press conferences, the House of Commons, etc.
Yeah, I think you just said the Independent Press Gallery, but I think you mean the
I'm
Parliamentary Press Gallery.
I mean
I'm like, wait, I wrote that.
Another Biden moment. I'm getting my press gallery people. My apologies, Sheila. No, I'm talking about the Parliamentary Press Gallery. They're on Team Censorious Thug. You at the Independent Press Gallery are not. But isn't it amazing, this drop? And by the way, why isn't this being reported? Well, we know the answer to that, but shouldn't that be kind of front page material, the lack of press freedom in Canada?
You would think, and the PPG is not sounding the alarm bells. Why? Because they aren't experiencing the lack of media freedom.
Yeah.
They aren't getting hit by this. It is only coming, once again, at one direction. It's only directed towards the independent journalists. And I noted in the press release, because for those of you who don't know, I'm the president of the Independent Press Gallery of Canada. The Liberal government expanded censorship through Bill C-11, granting the CRTC power over online content, Bill C-18, which disrupted news access, forcing tech platforms to pay government-approved media, and new censorship pledges from Prime Minister Mark Carney to regulate so-called online pollution. So in all, this created a two-tier media system with subsidized outlets, praised and promoted, and independent outlets denied access and smeared by state-funded competitors. And then I went on to note that this happened in real time to us, as CBC broadcasters misrepresented independent journalists as illegitimate and disruptive, despite their legal right to report, and video evidence that independent reporters were the targets of harassment. So it's called Reporters Without Borders. They put this out every single year. They warn that economic fragility and government interference are the leading global threats to press freedom. In Canada, those things are government policy.
Unbelievable. Good work, Sheila, as president, pointing this out. Knocked me down with a feather that this release wasn't picked up by the mainstream media. And
Do you know what? I have to tell you, I have an inquiry that it came onto my desk from AM 640 to talk about this tomorrow. And I think once they figure out that my other job is at Rebel News, they might not have me on.
Yeah.
I'll respond. I'm happy to talk about it because this is true. I mean, you could track the decline of press freedom in this country from when the Liberals took office. Remember, the mainstream media used to cry about Stephen Harper, but actually they had it pretty good when Stephen Harper was here. And they still, I think, have it pretty good. It's just the rest of us who are getting stomped all over. So anyways, we'll see if they want to talk to me after they figure out I work for Rebel News.
I don't think they will. Do you know which show it was, Sheila? I used to be.
I don't want
Pardon me?
I don't. You know what? It's fine.
No. And, of course, they know what they're doing at AM 640. They're part of Chorus. And Chorus, the last time I looked, I think was trading at 18 cents a share. So, oh well. Who am I to bring up the inconvenient truths of the mainstream media industry? Why don't we move on to that? Sheila, what do you make of this story? Ottawa paid a foreign firm 6 figures to spy on pro-Israel Canadians.
Yes.
All the while pro-Hamas mobs running wild in the street. This is your story, I believe.
Yes.
What in blue blazes is going on here?
So I should stop and preface this and say this is my story. I did write it up, but this was first broken by the incredible journalists over at Blacklocks who do not take a penny in government funding for the very important work that they do. And I know that their work can be boring and monotonous because they work a lot in access to information and government reports. And I do too. It is soul sucking. So we got to give credit where it's due because I'm sure they suffered for this. But yes, the Trudeau government paid a foreign firm 6 figures to spy on Canadians who support Israel. This wasn't counterterrorism, it was political policing. This started after Hamas terrorists murdered 1,200 people, including 8 Canadians, on October 7th. The Department of Canadian Heritage gave $128,000 to a UK group to spy on Canadians on Twitter, or X rather, and Facebook. These, not to monitor jihadists, not to monitor terrorists, but pro-Israel Canadians. And they were looking for, this is what the contract was for: digital analysis, situation room, and rapid response programming for Israel-Gaza extremism, hate, and misinformation. The targets included Friends of Israel, prominent news sources, wonder who that is, conservative commentators, anyone criticizing Trudeau, Mendocino, or Yara Sachs. Again, wonder who that is. Like every single tweet that she posted for the last 2 years, Ezra basically attached a photo of her and Mahmoud Abbas to it. And even Facebook groups concerned about anti-Semitic protests. So if you're like somebody's Yenta, favorite little Yenta, and you're like, boy, I don't want to have to walk past the Yahya Sinwar cosplay to get to the grocery store, you could potentially have been put on a watch list by these people. One report flagged a top performing tweet that said Trudeau indirectly funded Hamas through returning money to UNRWA, which he did. We know UNRWA employed Hamas terrorists, apparently even pointing that out as extremism. Other posts criticized groups like CUPE, the National Council of Canadian Muslims, for their soft stance on Hamas. They also flagged posts about NDP MP Heather McPherson when she was being called out online for being too pro-Hamas. Anyways, they didn't bother to monitor the actual Hamas protests running amok on Canadian streets, or even consider where's all that money coming from for them to have all those matching signs and scarves every single week. They never bothered to look at that. These people froze convoy assets like that. after they got their access to a hacked list, just shows you where the government's focus is.
Unbelievable. And on that note, I believe we have more insanity on the Hamas front from our beloved colleague Alexa Lavoie. Let's check out this short video clip of some nice, peaceful flyers being posted in the city of Montreal. It's nauseating, to tell you the truth, folks. Here, check it out.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a quick video because I think it's important to shed light on something. So we have here a new flyers, and I don't know if you can see it. It's mean support the troops. We have the Hamas flag just right there. We have the Hezbollah flag and the Houthis flag. So this is in Montreal. I wanted to do a video to show you that it's not a picture taken from nowhere. It's really in Montreal. So some people are now putting this a little bit everywhere in support of terrorist organization. And this is a reality. Legit, guy.
You know, Sheila, I think if you are going to be visibly Jewish in Montreal, I don't think it's a safe space anymore.
No, I don't think so. I think not just visibly Jewish, visibly anything but Muslim. We see them doing these constant protests in front of the Notre Dame church there. Yep. I just can't even believe that this is happening in Canada. It's been such a fall throughout these last 10 years, but particularly the last 2 years. And then when you see where the government's focusing on it, it would be people like Alexa objecting to this that would end up on a watch list. Support the troops. But which troops? The ones abducting and harming Israelis. I was going to say something worse, but I'm trying to keep us still on YouTube. But yeah, these are the people who harmed mothers in front of their children and in front of their husbands. Those are the troops they need to support. And yet Alexa, according to the government, would end up on a watch list compiled by foreign nationals and then handed over to the state.
Unbelievable. They're using the wrong T word. They're not troops, they're terrorists. And we just saw on the weekend too, the airport in Tel Aviv bombed, a missile struck in from the Houthis. So I think we can expect to see a major Houthi eradication. And as far as I'm concerned, I really believe in Trump's term this time around. I think we're going to see regime change because it is Iran and Qatar that are the sources of the funding for those groups that Alexa mentioned. But like you said, Sheila, the shocking part is Montreal, last I checked, isn't in the Middle East. It's in the Dominion of Canada. But sometimes you have to pinch yourself to make sure you think you're in the postal code you're residing in.
Yeah, well, and you say, Qatar and Iran, but also Canada, also the Western world, by funding to UNRWA. And UNRWA funnels money to terrorists. Terrorists work for UNRWA. And Stephen Harper rightly cut off the money to them. And Justin Trudeau returned it, and Carney's going to give them more.
100%. Sheila, we're down to our last 5 minutes. I know you have a hard out at 2, so we have other topics here. You can either pick that or you can, I don't know if some other chats came in the meantime.
We got a couple of chats, but let's go to, and David, be so careful. Lise and I started a portion of the show, the last thing we do on the show, called Your Daily Dose of Cringe. We're calling it the Daily Cringe. We know Matt Walsh has the Daily Cancellation. We found videos where we haven't watched them. We're coming in cold, and we just want to see how bad it is, and we're going to all experience it together. I know by the description of this video that it is going to cause me full body cringe and possibly jaw pain. But we're going to watch it together. It's called Dylan Mulvaney Appears in New Music Video Dressed in Women's Clothing. David, be so careful, please. Let's watch together.
Make you happy, or I can flame you, follow me, and you'll see that I will at you. Busy, busy rhyming on the move. It's madness. Let me through. When you do, I'll make it bright. I'll be dazzled, baby. Dazzle when you're dancing with me. So dazzled, baby. Shining just as bright as can be. I'll be dazzled. Dazzling and glittering free. Never know what you're gonna see. Expect the unexpected with me.
You know, I will be careful. But this person, because I'm being very careful,
I know.
this humanoid, we're all humanoids, how is Dylan Mulvaney still a thing post the Bud Light marketing fiasco, Sheila? Who is hiring this person? Who is interested in this person? If we didn't have a video and you were just playing the audio, that was horrible music and a horrible voice. What's the market? Who's buying that? This is what I can't figure it out, me being a bear of a very little brain. But you, Khaleesi, you have a higher IQ, and please educate me.
I don't anymore. After watching that, I don't. You know, remove the auto-tune, the plastic surgery, and the filters, and what do we have? Just someone wearing women's clothes, women's skin, like some Buffalo Bill. You know, and I'm with you. Like, who still likes this? Who still wants this? Dylan Mulvaney is so destructive and so poisonous that association with Dylan Mulvaney imploded Bud Light.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know why everyone's like, you know what? We need more of Dylan Mulvaney. We need to know what Dylan Mulvaney does next. And if Dylan Mulvaney had any shame, and I don't think Dylan Mulvaney does, Dylan Mulvaney would disappear forever for the multi-billion-dollar destruction inflicted on Budweiser. But nope, these people have no shame, and they keep coming back and back and back again, and that was horrible. I don't consume pop music generally speaking, but that was bad, right?
Oh,
like, it was bad.
I think so. And you know, and as much as this person is passing off him or itself as feminine, again, I'm being very clear, very careful, folks. That's why I'm getting tongue-tied. You take away the professional makeup and you take away the professional lighting in that video, and I'm telling you, Sheila, the reality isn't what you're getting in the manufactured presentation of Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah, I think in regular old daylight, you would be aghast. You know, like, I'm happy when people meet me out in the world and like, oh, you're a lot. We kind of like you better in the real world, and I like that response as opposed to, You're awful off camera. I think people would be shocked and frightened to experience Dylan Mulvaney without the TikTok filters and the auto-tune.
It puts the lotion in the bucket.
Yeah. Or gets the hose again. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel about this stuff. It's very menagerie of women in the basement kind of vibes.
Sheila, are you proud of me that I didn't get us demonetized to the best of our knowledge from YouTube?
My mind is blown. My mind is blown.
You better get to those chats right away then.
Oh, well, I thought that was a real interesting pick for David and Sheila to tackle. Sheila doesn't have enough stress in her day. Let's throw this one at her. But David, you did great. Thank you. We've got one from Hutch Woman, $5, says Robert Fife is the dick there. And the Communist Broadcast Corporation needs to fire the giggling hyena host. I think that's why they have David Cochrane there. The liar David Cochrane. That's why he's there, is because he is viciously anti-conservative.
Yep.
And like I said, that was just like a middle-aged hen party of 50-something wine moms passing as the state broadcaster's serious media panel. So. Sad. Yeah, that's why it's a statistical rounding error of viewership every day.
Wow.
That's it.
All right. Well, 1 minute past 2. We almost made it on deadline.
Did it.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you all for those wonderful chats. And that is how we do monetize, unlike the mainstream media going into your bank account every 2 weeks and doing a direct withdrawal. I believe Sheila will be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern with the lovely Lise. And I'll see Sheila again on Friday. In the meantime, as always, folks, stay safe and